But everybody knows that smoking isn't good for you. It's been common knowledge for a long time that smoking isn't good for you. Anything that goes into your respiratory system or anything that's going into your lungs, it's no bueno. It's clogging up all the bronchioles. You can't get all the oxygen in. And we've seen the issues that come of any sort of tobacco, chewing tobacco, smoking, anything like. Everybody knows that it's not good. People continue to do it anyways. I don't agree with it. I don't see the use for it. Never have, probably never will. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But on December 20th of 2019, Tobacco 21 was passed. And so now across the country, you have to be 21 years old or older to purchase tobacco products. Really what it does is it eliminates the possibility of high school students or younger from getting tobacco products, be it chew, be it cigarettes, cigars, pipe tobacco, whatever, you name it. It came about because there's this thing that came around called e-cigarettes came around, juuling, vaping. These are all things that have become more, they've been advertised to teenagers, to younger people to try to get us smoking. And it kind of irritates me that happened because I thought we were so close as a society to eliminating tobacco use, nicotine consumption. I thought we were so close. But that all got thrown away as soon as juuling, as soon as vaping became a thing. I thought we were close. I thought we almost eliminated it. But I was wrong. We went back to doing the same old thing where we're putting unnecessary chemicals into our body like nicotine. I don't even know what all's in e-cigarettes. It's all garbage that you don't need to be putting into your body. That's just me. But that's a decision that many people make. They decide to take a hit of a Juul. They decide to try that first cigarette. They decide to chew for the first time. And these are all decisions that eventually lead to something bad in the end. Everybody says there's only a chance of developing cancer. Well, yeah, there's a chance of developing cancer, but there's a certainty of other issues later on down the road. You're not going to have the same VO2 max. You're not going to be able to take in the same amount of oxygen. You're going to have to breathe harder. All kinds of issues. That's just smoking alone. And like I said, that's my opinion. Maybe there's some benefit to it. I don't know. But that's just me. But any time that we make a decision, be it good or bad, we go through this process of decision making. And everybody goes through it. It might happen in the blink of an eye. It might take, you might have a year or so to make decisions. And it all depends on, what it is. So I'm going to use the example of vaping, or just of juuling, I guess, as an example, just because it's really prevalent nowadays, and it's something that you might have faced. You might juul, you might vape. I don't know. It's not my decision to judge, or it's not my choice to judge, not my place to judge. But we're going to use it as an example to explain the decision-making process, because as we get older, we have to learn how to make these good decisions on our own. So the first thing that we have to have is we have to have a problem, or we have to have a decision to make. In our case, in our example case, we're going to use it. Should we take a hit of this Juul, or should we not? Should we try vaping? Should we not? So the first step is to get all the info. In simple, get the information that we need. What is it? It's a little cartridge about yay big. In the case of Juul, it's about this big. You inhale it and then you exhale it. It doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. All you're doing is taking a hit of nicotine, some other chemicals, might have a flavor, whatever. That's the information. Step 2 is to look it over and find a bias. Okay, so you have this information of what it is. So let's think about it. So there's this person who's offering it to me. Okay, what have I been told in my life? I've always been told that putting things in my lungs isn't a good thing, that if it isn't air. Okay, so we have our bias, we have everything around us. So we have to consider the consequences. So the biggest issue that we've had with e-cigarettes, vaping, juuling, etc., any sort of this new age smoking, is nobody knows what the outcome is going to be. Nobody's developed the issues yet. The reason that humanity figured out that smoking and any sort of tobacco use isn't good is because after a period of time we saw that cancer was being formed, decreased exercise, physiological bodily functions were being reduced. And so we don't quite have that yet with vaping, juuling, anything like that. So we really don't know what the consequences are going to be yet. So that for me right there that's a red flag. But again, that's just me. So then we finally have to make our decision. We have to figure out, okay, am I going to try vaping or not? Or am I going to, am I not going to, am I going to try it once, am I going to be able to put it away? You don't necessarily know once you make that first decision. So let's say you choose not to. I like to think that I take the high road in most situations. Not always. I make my own mistakes. I choose not to vape. I've made this decision. So the next step in the process is to take responsibility, good and bad. So let's say you choose not to. Let's say you're hanging out with a group of friends and you're the only person that decides not to hit the Juul. Yeah, it might suck because you could potentially get made fun of. It happens sometimes. I know there's a lot of, I don't know, I wasn't in middle school that awful long ago, so I can understand some of the pressures, the do it and you're cool type deal. Oh, he was the only person not to, what an idiot. I'm sure idiot's not the choice word. Anyways, but you have to take that. But you have to understand that down the road, you're going to be thanking yourself later because you didn't start that nicotine dependence. That's something that you can pride yourself on. And so then that means the last step of the entire process, which was our sixth step, is to reflect and simply learn from our mistakes, if we made any. In this scenario, I think that we made the right decision by not putting stuff into our body that we shouldn't have been putting into our body. So that's the decision that we made. And in this scenario, the mistake we might have learned is maybe we shouldn't have been hanging out with those friends. If they're trying to push their agenda on us, if they're trying to make us do things that we don't want to do, maybe they're not the best of friends. Maybe they're a bad influence. But that's life. So this isn't really just like a checklist that you go down. If you were to ask an adult and you said, hey, is there like this checklist that you like use before you make decisions? They're going to say, no, you idiot. That's not something I do. As you grow older, you'll kind of subconsciously teach yourself how to think in this way. It's, okay, I need to figure out, it's almost like go through this pros and cons list of things. As an adult, you'll kind of learn like, oh, I'll figure out the good and the bad of things. And that's something that I think every adult does. I do it, my parents do it, every adult that I know does it. But you eventually train your brain how to think that way. Being under the age of 40, I think we tend to, as a younger society, get blamed for this thing called instant gratification, which is kind of just, we don't have patience anymore. We get that little buzz from, oh, I got this thing now, as soon as I snap my fingers. I'd snap my fingers, but I don't know how to snap my fingers. We suffer from this, and I think that sometimes that instant gratification tends to aid in our bad decision making. So for me, there's this little thing called Amazon Prime. And Amazon Prime for me is extremely dangerous because you can buy anything in the entire world. Well, I wouldn't say anything, but you can buy most things. So sometimes for me, I don't always weigh out the consequences, and I just choose the easy path. I choose, I'll buy it. I'll make that $25 up later in life. And while it might be cool to have throwing knives, I really don't have a use for them, and I don't need them. So sometimes we tend to let that instant gratification get the best of us. So we have to be careful about the decisions that we make in our lives, because they can have repercussions later on down the road. I talked about vaping earlier. That's the biggest issue that we have with vaping, is nobody really knows what the repercussions are going to be down the road. It was originally designed to be an alternative to smoking, but in the grand scheme of things, let's say smoking is eating 100 cookies, but you decide to switch to vaping, so you're only eating 50 cookies. You cut down your cookie intake to half. But is 50 cookies really that healthy? So you kind of have to consider the consequences of what you're doing. So we go back to our third third step in our decision making. We have to see the consequences. We don't always know what the future brings for us, and so we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves later on down the road of our lives. So right now, where we are, we're in middle school. I'm not exactly sure how old we are. We're like, what, somewhere between 10 and 14? It's pretty wide age range. Anyways, you're in that age range. Now, you are responsible for some of the decisions you make. Let's say you choose not to do your homework. You don't get the points for that. Yeah, little stuff like that is a repercussion, but it's teaching you for later on down the road in life. So let's say I'm having a really bad day, and I decide to... I'm walking down the street. Some guy bumps into me and gets angry with me, and I start a fight. If you're in school and you start a fight, yeah, you get suspended, you get detention. I don't know what the repercussions are exactly. It depends, but nothing good is going to come of it. But if you look to the high school students, let's say there's an 18-year-old high school student and he starts a fight. Game over. He goes to jail. It's not a matter of, oh, you started, and there's really no sense of an argument. He just goes to jail. And that's a decision that he made. He decided to throw the first punch. And so that's a decision he made. He decided to start that fight. And his consequences, his step 3, which he might not have looked at, is he's going to jail. And he has other stuff he has to look for later on down the road. You're still in middle school. Now is the time to be making good decisions. You have time to be setting yourself up for a path of good decisions. A lot of where I'm at in my life right now is based on middle school. I decided to take the honors courses. I took up cross country and soccer and track, and that carried me all throughout high school, into college. That put me into physical education, and that's basically why I'm here now, because of middle school. And so now is the time to start making good decisions. Don't start down the road of smoking. Don't try alcohol. Don't do these things now. Wait until you have all the information. I'm not saying that you should do a lot of these things. I think a lot of things that you might be faced with are bad. I don't think you should smoke. I don't think you should consume alcohol. There's a lot of things that you're not at the age where you should be deciding these huge life decisions now. So wait for it. That's not something... Put yourself on the right path. Yeah, just make good decisions. Yeah, sometimes you can admit your mistakes and you can clean your slate. You can't always do that. Life is forgiving for some, and it's not forgiving for others. So just try your best to be on the straight and narrow. If you've already decided to start vaping and you're for some reason having issues, look on the internet. There's all kinds of ways to stop it. You can talk to somebody. Mrs. Horwat's always available. You can always drop a mention or drop a comment in the YouTube section. I don't know. Just talk to somebody if you're having issues. If you've made a mistake and you want to get on the right and narrow, there's always a way back. You just have to admit your mistake. I actually have a little quote here. I put a little cheat sheet on the bottom of my my camera stand so I can kind of look at things. I wrote, if you don't know where your mistake is, that's your worst mistake. Not knowing where your mistakes are at. And that wasn't any huge philosopher. That was Meek Mill that said that. Meek Mill's, he's cool. I like Meek Mill. He's a good rapper. But there's always, if you make a mistake, you can always somehow manage to make it back on the right path. If you look at celebrities, a lot of celebrities have made mistakes. I'm not going to talk about the celebrities, but they make mistakes, and they either make it back on the straight and narrow or they continue making mistakes. And that's on them. That's their decision. That's a decision they make. So my challenge to you is to try to make the best decisions that you can. Focus on living a clean life. I mean, I try to live healthy. That's just me. I don't know. Take it easy out there. Be safe.